Good morning and welcome to your last best hope for conversation, your Babylon 5 podcast. I made a specific point not to have a space. Thank you,
Oh,
Karen Lindsay.
you're welcome.
Yeah, we are here talking Endgame. We are getting toward the end of the fourth season. And I think there will be a lot to discuss. This is episode 20 of season 4, originally put out October 13th, 1997. I'm going to save the podcast mom, Karen, for just a moment. I'm going to go to my other brother in all things geekdom, Lou. What are your quick thoughts on this one?
a it was a tale of two cities for me. There's a storyline and a B storyline, and I was much more interested in the B storyline.
Very interesting. Karen?
Yeah, I thought it was a good episode, but I'm a little depressed at the end.
We are always, Karen and I both are suckers for Happy Ever After, and we don't
Yeah.
get this.
But not Lou.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you like Happy Ever Afters?
I like Happy Ever Afters, but I like it if there's a price that has been paid. Much like Lord of the Rings, what happens with Frodo at the end. I like those kind
Yeah.
of endings.
Got it. So you essentially like resolution.
I like resolutions with
Yeah.
and
The happy,
that the character
upbeat.
has paid a price to get to where they want to be,
Got it.
so that they treasure it more than just
Right.
oh, everything's sunshine and lollipops and rainbow and candy drops.
Very well. Okay, good. Let's start out with the reveal of what John is planning to do with the telepaths. Karen, basically, he is going to use them as stealth bombs, right?
Yeah.
They're going to bring them on. They're going to be able to disable the ships. The chances are they will kill those telepaths, but it doesn't matter. The ships are still going to be disabled. Pretty cold-hearted decision on John.
Yeah,
So, your thoughts?
I can see that, but also Franklin wasn't able to remove those implants at all. And they were in agony essentially every time he woke them up. Perhaps this was a way to give their lives meaning. At least that's my thought. I get where he's coming from 100%. I'm sure he and Franklin talked it over a lot, and Lita most likely, because Lita would have more of an insight into their mindset. I honestly think it was the best decision all around, that they were suffering. Let's give their life some purpose and send them in to help end this war, because they're humanity as well, and we're trying to save humanity. So
The
that's my
needs of
thought.
the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
And also,
Or the one.
their lives wouldn't have been what they wanted. That they couldn't be normal anymore. So
I wonder if they tried to pick telepaths that had no specific connection to someone, that maybe was not someone's, but I guess everyone is always someone's relative.
I
But yeah, but still,
I don't think they took that into account, to be honest, because I really do think that it was them making the best out of more than one situation. They needed some way to sabotage those ships. They knew that the telepaths could do it. They couldn't remove the implants, so their lives would have just been miserable. And this was a way to solve everything and make sure that those people had a purpose.
this is one of the, this is a very much a parallel to the dropping the nuclear bomb, that
Sure.
this was really tough, much more death than this. Okay.
Yeah, and
they do,
also John was in the fight as well,
yeah,
on the Agamemnon.
yeah.
So he's not willing to do anything that he's not already doing. He's ready to sacrifice himself. So it's not one of those situations where he's sending someone in order to shield himself. He is ready to go.
Yeah. And Franklin does mention they're doing their part to free Earth. He does have that discussion.
Yeah.
All right, Lou, how about you?
Yeah, it was a tough decision for John to make. I was fine with it because it's if you equate it to real life events like Churchill during the World War, where he had to ignore the fact that they knew that the Germans were going to bomb the city or area in order to win the overall battle. I guess stylistically, and I think this is just an ongoing issue with Babylon 5, but I mentioned it last episode, like you don't get the payoffs or the emotional payoffs that I think they could have had with some of the storylines. In this particular case, what I find disappointing. We did have the one episode where Lita was trying to probe the one telepath's mind, and all we really got from that was that they were in pain. But that doesn't really help me identify with these telepaths collectively as a group of individual people. The best example I could see where they should have done something like on Star Trek The Next Generation, where they would have Borg episodes where an individual Borg would get humanized. I think wasn't the one character called
You.
You? You?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like
you.
they needed that kind of like they had the initial setup with that episode with that one character, but they just don't go that extra step that I'm looking for, where it's in a story from a storytelling perspective for me to connect to some of the story points. Like it would have been, I think it would have been more emotionally resonant if that one particular character that they talked to somehow they were at least to establish some sort of rudimentary communications, and he would basically come across and say, "Please, this is no life for any of us. Kill us off, let us die, or whatever, something like that." Then there's that extra little emotional hook that I always find that the show in this season, and I guess it's because they don't know that they're going to get a fifth season, blah blah blah, so they have to rush through story points. But I think there's a lot of missed opportunities in this last third of the season that are disappointing to me, and this episode is just pretty emblematic of that. But taking that into account, it was a tough decision for John. And if you're on the anti-John camp in the Babylon 5 universe, this would be just another, example of his callous ruthlessness in getting what he wants accomplished. So there's that interesting through line. But it's often been said that in order to the rise to the top, you're going to make enemies no matter what you do. And this storyline, just this whole arc short is approving that. So I was okay with it. I just wish there was a little more emotional buy-in for me to feel more. And that's why I said off the top I was much more interested in the B storyline, because there was some emotional attachment, investment in those characters and what they were going through, as opposed to at this stage, I've gotten pretty blasé about big action battle sequences unless you can get additional individual emotional beats spread out through the big battles. And we knew who was going to win and all that, blah, blah, blah. So I was just, okay, let's play out the storyline, and let's get back to the other storyline because I'm not really sure where this is going. Yeah, that's how I felt about the episode. I guess I went beyond our.
No, I'm glad you did. One of the thoughts is in mind canon is because if you had a discussion where they're so corrupted by this shadow technology, even if I could pull out the implants, I don't know if they would have any kind of life, right? That
Right.
they've taken this idea. And you're right, if she could have, when she had that discussion and mentioned they're in pain, and if the message over and over is let me die, maybe that would have been, and once again, we're Monday morning quarterbacking.
Yep.
The idea, I was happy with this because I think what John was trying to do is to save as many lives as he could. He seemed he was very, and I can't remember if it was, and our listeners will correct me, I'm sure, if it was Sinclair or Sheridan was the history buff, but I know Sheridan quoted Lincoln. So if he had been very engaged in the Civil War, like the idea of later the ISN reporter says we're all sons and daughters of Earth, that he was like, these people are not necessarily evil. They're soldiers fighting for a corrupt administration. And I want to try to save them as much as I can.
Yeah, he wanted to disable the ships. And he made a big point about don't fire on them unless they fire on you.
Yeah.
So I do like that he emphasized that.
On the other hand, we have the captain or the general Lefcourt basically saying that John, I taught him in the academy, no matter what we think, we have to follow the rule of law and the chain of command, and don't hesitate. You've got to take these people down. There was a little bit of discussion about why would he have changed so much at the end, and the point JMS said, and I'd love you guys to thought on this, is that, just following orders I know has a bad connotation to it. But in his case, I was following the chain of command. Now the chain of command is gone. I'm going to flip over and I thought that was really well. You're going to have to, like, sorry, we got here a little late. There was a little something going on in Mars, and you're going to have to be held accountable for your actions, but welcome home, John. So Karen, your thoughts on that kind of, and we can talk about the big battle and all the other things, but I'm like Lou a little bit. That's never what, after seeing Star Wars the first time back in 77, where I'd never seen space battles like this. Since then, I'm always more about the people and this humanity. But yeah, thoughts on this kind of battle. And let's go all the way to the end. Let's hold off because I want to talk separately about Clark.
Yeah. And again, I'm assuming things instead of seeing them on the screen, but they do establish at the beginning that he knows John and he knows what kind of person he is. And we see, and I'm sure it's off camera, that he's informed of what's going on Earth.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what was transmitted, but he obviously knew that not only that Clark had killed himself and the chain of command was gone, but that Clark was going to decimate Earth. And so he felt like that was a much more important thing. And that, I get it now. I see what John was fighting for. And now I can throw my hat in. I would think, though, and I understand why they did it in this episode, but I would think that Lefcourt would have that kind of thing that Mackie did for John, where he believes in John a little bit more. But again, I see why they did it. They gave us a sympathetic character that was on the other side of the fence so that we could see him get it and turn in order to help John at the end. So I don't know that we would have bought one of the other ship commanders throwing in at the end. I think it had to be someone that knew John and knew what he was about.
Once again, it would have been interesting if he could have been seen in a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
Right? Like that he was,
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe he and Mackie had a conversation or something.
Yeah. Or him trying to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. How about you, Lou?
I can see why they didn't, though.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. That section of the episode kind of echoes what I've just said previously. But I did think that the turning of the weapons towards Earth was a good get for doing something like that in such a short time period. It would take something that drastic for that character to switch or see the light, so to speak. So from that perspective, it did work, and it was that was the best twist in the whole battle sequence as well. So I appreciated that. I thought that was a good add to what could have been just a conventional spaceship battle sequence. So I thought that was pretty well done.
Yeah, I did the idea, John, ramming speed, the idea that we're going to sacrifice to save Earth, because that's ultimately been his goal, is to free Earth. And I thought it was really well done that the Apollo comes right at the time, the literal cavalry, the god of light, and saying, hold on to your hats. And then that Delenn looking upset and the special effects of the ship going through the dust of the destroyed was a nice moment, and
a very Millennium Falcon moment. You brought up Star Wars, and that's very
so it's just missing a yeehaw, and
exactly.
And I did really appreciate the idea of, because this is the first time John had been back to Earth since
Mhm.
all this had happened.
Mhm.
And the idea of welcome home is really cool. We do get, I did not realize this is the only time the actor who played Clark was actually on screen live. Every other time we had seen him on either a video call or a press briefing, like other words, a story on show. He gets no lines. And this is very much similar to this is a known thing of Hitler committing suicide and actually had wanted Germany to turn about on itself, and the German generals refused, which I thought was interesting. And the Scorched Earth, the director, John Copland, is the one who came up with that, and that's very much a Doctor Strangelove kind of homage.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
I get that it's an homage,
yeah.
but why would he leave a note?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair, right? Yeah.
He obviously was insane. He was writing the same thing over and over on the page.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, why would you tell them you're going to kill Earth?
Yeah.
You know, but that's just me.
Okay, no, that's fair.
I think it's
Lou.
effective.
It's his
but-
ego.
Yeah.
Yeah, is
Yeah,
it?
it's ego. Yeah, I think so. I think it's very much his ego.
You can't stop me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
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 I spit
How about-
at you from beyond the grave. My last
Yeah.
breath.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this sequence, Lou?
I know some of the reader feedback we got, they chastised me, I think, for saying that we never really got to see Clark in that. And given the way that he's been used throughout the series, I liked the way that they finished him off in this and just made him like a faceless sort of mask of evil, or whatever you want to call it. He's Sauron. Everybody talks about him all the time, but you never really get to know him as a person or identify him in any identifiable way, except that he just wants to watch the world burn. So I actually literally, I thought that was a continued a story choice that they had made for that character throughout the series, and I thought it was a good ending for the way they decided to portray that character. Though those sequences on Earth with the guards coming towards him and all that stuff, it reminded me a lot of the Shawshank Redemption when the warden's getting cornered at the end. So that was an interesting parallel as well. So yeah, so I thought that actually was pretty well done. So like the back half of the last part of the battle, from the moment that Clark decided to turn the weapons on Earth till Clark killed himself, that was my most enjoyable part of that whole Earth-Mars battle sequences from this episode.
And I get the feeling, I think according to IMDb, this is Senator Crosby, played by Carolyn Seymour. You get the idea that there were people who were trying to work within the system to change things or run happy, but there's only so much you could do. Yeah. Similar to, and I will be, when things are normal, you have the majority and you have the minority in both the Senate and the House, and they're both when it works best is when they work together, but often they're at odds and they go back and forth. So I thought that was really interesting that because John had called out the tyranny, that they're like, okay, we're going to do what we can to help on our end as well. And I agree with Lou. I think it's a fitting into a little Weasley character that has tried to use the Psychor, has tried to use the shadows, had sold his soul for power. And it was really interesting. And we're going to get to Marcus and Susan next, but I was really impressed by the actress who played the ISN anchor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought she played it the right amount of emotion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just for a moment, I can't believe I'm here, and then does her best.
Yeah.
And unlike there is a line where there were good people on both sides, in this case, I do feel that because of the thought to the Civil War,
right?
Where while maybe the leaders were fighting for some of what I believe are the wrong things but the soldiers themselves following orders. It was interesting. And being sons and daughters, also thought you would now write Children's of Earth because of the binary. But I thought that was a really nice moment. Lou, any quick thoughts on her?
Yeah, I agree with you that she was able to stir some feelings of which for such a small part, I thought was really well done. And yeah, I thought that whole segment with her was a nice emotional beat that outside of the B storyline was probably the most powerful one in the whole episode.
Yeah, Karen, your thoughts?
Yeah, that scene in particular, that actress was really selling it. The pain that she had been in, that she obviously had been tortured, that some of her colleagues had been killed, and felt it was a little emotional. And the fact that we knew her already, I think helped it. That she was the same as she was earlier. I guess earlier in the season she was on, and before other seasons. But yeah, I appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, according to IMDb, she was on 10 different episodes.
Yeah.
So we had seen her 3 times in season 1, twice in season 2, twice in 3, and then we'll stay quiet for now.
Okay. Several times in season 4.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was just really nice. All right, Lou.
Can I say something about Crosby?
Please. Yes.
That actress, Carolyn, what's her name? Carolyn something. I'm sorry, I'm on her page, but Carolyn Seymour, she's one of those actresses that you've seen a lot of places, especially genre, Doctor Who, Star Trek, things like that. She was in The Face of the Enemy episode of The Next Generation, where Deanna is turned into a Romulan. If anyone's thinking, she played Torres. But yeah, I liked her in that role. I love that when, you guys know this, I'm a sucker for character actors that I've seen other places. So when she came on the screen, I was like, oh, yeah, here it comes. Yeah. She's got some business to take care of. And I like that I knew right off the bat she was gonna raise some hell. She was gonna get rid of Clark.
Yeah. Yeah, there is that, right? That there is the yin and yang of being a character actor. There are actors that immediately the character they're playing, and there is a shorthand to that. So yeah, I agree.
In her case, she's played villains and she's played heroes, essentially. Not heroes, but good guys and bad guys.
Yeah.
So I do that there could have been ambiguity in that. Like she was coming to back him up or something, but she wasn't. I do appreciate that. She was coming in to take over.
And boy, she's done a ton of vocal work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, Lou, were you surprised that they brought back the machine from the first and second season as the miracle cure?
I would say, honestly, based on how the series has gone, we know they do callbacks. So though I do admit I had totally forgotten about it. So it was as soon as we found out that Marcus was taking Susan back to Babylon 5, I knew what he had in mind, and then it was confirmed later on. So, and it's just a really nice payoff for that, or what looks like what's going to be a payoff for that character. And because unrequited love stories are always bittersweet, you like them, but they give you pain at the same time because that tension is never realized. So I really do like that they brought that machine back for this particular use instead of just, somebody went out on a mission and got mortally wounded, so we're gonna use this device to resurrect him or whatever. So this was a more personal use of that story device. So I liked it really from that perspective. And because the relationship between those two has been so muted, I think his sacrifice, I'm assuming a sacrifice, has that much bigger impact. It's like when Spock raises his eyebrow, that that small little gesture has so much more meaning than if he's moting all over the place, Captain Kirk would do or whatever. So it's those subtle little things like that that are very small but speak volumes because of the subtext that exists between those two characters over the arc of the series. So yeah, I was much more invested in that storyline because it's a much more personal story than I was the Liberating Earth storyline.
Did you, when Lanier kind of hesitates and said there's nothing to do, when did you think they were going to bring the machine back?
I didn't think they were going to bring the machine back until he was taking her back to Babylon 5.
And after he had seen the videos?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Karen,
when
same thing for you?
when Lanier was hesitating, I thought, what's going on here? I don't get what's the deal. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
that
Karen?
machine had totally left my mind. Of course, you remember it immediately once you see it back on screen and hear Franklin talking about it. And this seemed to be the episode of callbacks. There was a lot of that with the machine, the interfacing with the teepsicles, as people are calling them. There was just a lot, and how Lita can communicate with all of them. All of this was established
that was
in
the
earlier
biggest
episodes.
stretch moment of the episode.
Yeah, but she's
Oh,
done it before,
yeah.
so
Oh, I have to go outside because I
Yeah.
have interference.
Come
It's like,
on.
come on, you're already going across
Yeah,
vast spaces. So now you're
that's
going
like
to tell me that
saying-
being inside a building is going to block your ability.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
that
like-
one building. That
Yeah.
one building is going to stop you.
that's like saying I'm gonna walk an inch in order to get closer to the West
Yeah.
Coast or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah,
just
it
not.
is.
It's,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
Or maybe she's Superman and she can't go through lead. Who knows?
If they would have
What-
said that's lead lined.
Exactly.
But they didn't.
I always joke at often when I'm going to see Bruce or any concert, we will end up getting tickets that are in the nosebleed section. And we'll be 3 or 4 rows from the top row. And we're like, at least we don't have those bad a seats. Yeah. Oh, those are really bad seats. One other thing, and then I want to hear more from you, Karen. I loved that we also got a call back to the musician, the singer dying. Because we had talked
Same,
about
yeah.
that, and that was that nice little point where he was reporting her death.
Yeah,
You know,
we saw
and,
Franklin talk about several incidents that had happened. And he also brought up the fact that Marcus had been injured.
Yes. Again,
Which is a little bit of foreshadowing for the end of the
yeah.
episode. Yeah,
So I thought that was nice. So,
I agree.
All right. So I was really
Can I just
happy-
say, I am softening towards Franklin.
Okay.
Like, I'm really digging his character recently. And it probably is just better writing for him.
Yeah.
So, and it makes sense that he was on Mars. Everything makes sense with him.
Marcus determines that there is a miracle cure and he's willing to sacrifice himself. I thought it was very effective to have Franklin telling about it was meant for capital punishment, that if anyone you would have to, unlike with Garibaldi, they were able to take a little bit of their life force enough to get him better. But they've said Susan is going to be dead within a week. Right. There is her fatal injuries. And so the only way to heal her completely is just totally drain from life force from one to the other. And we get the I love you, which is, I thought, really nice because the last episode, you'll never know.
Yeah.
And then she calls him out because she had the idyllic memory.
Yeah,
So,
that's correct.
Yeah. So once that's going, I think where this is headed, and then to see he's kicked ass and taken names to get through Med Lab, and he's done that. And I think him with Franklin's overview and him saying I love you is just heart-wrenching. So Karen, I know you tweeted X'd that you said Endgame I hate you. So here's your chance to share. Please, thoughts.
Okay, I didn't really hate you. I'm just...
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know what you meant. Yes.
Yeah, I get it. It's impactful. It's a very Romeo and Juliet type
Mhm.
ending. And that's one of the greatest romances of our time, Romeo and
Yeah.
Juliet, even though they never end up together, they end up dying for each other. I see where that is a good ending for them, but I would have liked it to be a little different. If they had even just gotten together once, I'm just saying it would have been a little more heart-wrenching. It's already heart-wrenching. But he died a virgin. Come on, dude. Can he get a break? Yeah, but no, I understand. I'm mostly playing with you guys. I think it
No.
was very impactful, and it's incredibly logical for that character to do that. He felt like Susan was a better person to live than him. He had already done his living. We had already seen this season that he talked about how everyone around him had died and how he was sad all the time, and that the only thing that gave him purpose was being a ranger. And I think that shifted for him, that the thing that had given him purpose recently was Susan. And that's 100% in character for him to save her life, and in doing so, sacrificing him. And that, like I said, so Romeo and Juliet.
Any else thoughts on this very bittersweet ending, right? We've won the war, but we've lost one of our best characters. And I don't think it's very spoilerish to say that, because in Franklin's narration, he says if you totally give yourself to that, you could heal. So we know that. So next week, we're going to have to find out what Susan's thinking about Marcus giving everything to her. And are you going to feel, I think, a little bit of the guilt of someone's given everything to them, of themselves, to let me live, and what do I do with this burden? So
And
yeah.
how do I live my life moving forward in order to make his sacrifice worth it,
Yeah.
is a big thing in that
Yeah.
kind of storyline.
Yeah. I have two questions about how that storyline played out. The first one deals with some of the comments some of the characters were making, especially like I think Sheridan said, "Oh, I'm trying to stop somebody from making a very bad mistake." I didn't understand what he meant by that line. It seemed to infer that he thought that maybe Marcus didn't realize that he would be giving up his own life to help Susan. But for him to say that's a mistake seemed weird. Like that's not his call to make, right? Like did that line not sit well with either of you? Or
No, he shouldn't be giving up his life. I can see where he would say, look, Susan has injuries. That's the deal. We're in a fight. She is a fighter. She had injuries, and we shouldn't use this machine that I am against. We've already seen he and Franklin decided it should never be used again. They had already decided that. And he wanted to make sure that Marcus didn't sacrifice himself with the machine he already didn't want people to use in order to save Susan's life. So he was trying to make sure that Marcus didn't take this incredibly drastic action in a way that he and Franklin had already put the kibosh on. I'm assuming that's what the deal is.
And also maybe he's worried this won't work. And so that Susan
will die anyway.
Susan, and then you will have given your life up for nothing.
Sure.
Okay, I can buy that one a little bit.
Yeah.
But
he wouldn't have wanted Marcus to sacrifice himself, period.
But that's not his call.
But it is.
No,
right?
It's not, because just think of the scenario where Delenn was in the same situation. Do you not think Sheridan would sacrifice himself for her?
Sure.
So,
but also someone has the right to try and stop him too.
Yeah, I think that's.
I don't know about that. I think that's a personal decision. But that was the one thing that I just found that weird. The other question I had is, knowing Susan's character, and that the fact that she was told that they could only keep her alive for a week if they kept her on the machines. Don't you think she would have said, "I don't want to just
take me
drag
off.
this out, take me off, and just let me die naturally"?
Yep, I agree. I think she would have.
Yeah, I think so too. I think
so.
that's.
So this
Yeah.
whole keeping her alive thing was just a convenience to get to this extra plot point.
Yeah.
Because it's to me it seems totally out of character that she would let herself be kept alive on these machines like this.
Yeah.
I guess maybe because she was still coherent. Maybe
Mhm.
they don't allow euthanasia, right? Like it is,
Again,
uh,
that's a personal decision.
yeah,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
But
maybe she's in their version of hospice.
yeah, I think the only thing that really works for me is that she just wanted to stay alive long enough to know whether or not Sheridan was successful.
They had won.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think,
That's the
yeah,
only reason
I,
I could stay was she would want to stay alive or stay
Yeah.
like that in that condition.
I
mhm.
think that's the way to go. They may have been implying that when Marcus says she would have wanted to be here for the
Yeah,
fight.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Although
yeah,
it's not 100%. But
yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's fair. I think that's really fair. So, any final thoughts on the episode?
And there's those rich story points. I would have loved to seen a scene between Sheridan and Garibaldi before they went off to battle, sort of saying, "Hey, dude, I'm sorry," or something like that. But
Yeah,
maybe we'll get that in another episode, but I doubt it.
yeah, I get it.
These missed story character beats that just are
Yeah.
irritating. Yeah.
I did want to mention that there was criticism of this episode that it felt rushed,
Mm.
and the JMS at the time said that this was the end of the story, and so it should feel rushed. In other words, he did not combine, like he didn't take two or three storylines and put it in one episode in this case. This was the story he wanted to tell. He wanted the hitting the war, Clark's death, Susan, all that together. And I tend to believe him because he said other times when he was like, I had to juggle things around. So yeah, it's very interesting. All
Yeah.
right. How about you, Karen? Any other thoughts?
not really. I think it was an episode that had, like I said earlier, a lot of callbacks. And I think it made it very effective that things were believable, except for the couple of little things that we've mentioned.
Yeah.
They're very small little things.
Yeah.
So,
All right. We have 2 episodes left of the season.
Wow.
And what's interesting is the final episode of the season was supposed to be the final episode, the finale. And what they did is they wrote a brand new episode to put in the place of the final episode, and they moved the finale to the last episode of the 5th season.
oh, all right.
Yeah, because
That's interesting to know.
Yeah, he had his ending in mind, and so he did
So
not change it.
the deconstruction of falling stars, is that what it's called? The finale?
Yes. Yeah, that was the one that he wrote.
It's completely new. It wasn't.
It was not. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I think it shows, not in a bad way.
Oh, okay.
Just it's wow, that's pretty interesting. Okay.
Okay.
All right, I think it's time for ratings. I think that I'm tempted to give this a 10 because it wraps up so many things and nice, but instead I think I'm gonna give it a 9.5 just because of the few little nitpicks we talked about, but 9.5 scorched earth notes. Yes. How about you, Karen?
Yeah, I'll echo that. 9.5 dwarves.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that was funny. And I could not find anywhere. I thought Michael being grumpy was perfect. Then obviously Franklin, Doc, Snow White being
that's Marcus.
Marcus, yes.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was really funny. Yeah, that was good. All right, Lou, how about you?
I'm gonna be grumpy because I didn't like this episode as much as you two because of all the things that I've mentioned off the top.
Yeah.
And in honor of an actor who really never got to show his face in person, I'm gonna give this one 8 McGurks. 8 McGurks for Gary McGurk as President Clark. All
right, nice.
Very little presence for the poor guy, and he kept on being brought back to do these very minimalistic scenes, I guess you could say.
Yeah. The Lurker's Guide, the P5 rating is a 9.27. So that's pretty close with what we did 3. We did get feedback. So there was 3. I think all of them made
Yep.
it to you. Okay.
Yep, I have them. Let's start with David. Hi, David. Hi, all. Hope you had a good week. And hopefully, Karen had Kleenexes handy for this episode. We start off with Ivanova now comatose on the Minbari ship. Marcus is still by her side, and the look on his face says it all, IMO. Delenn gently tries to convince him to transport her to B5 so she can be comfortable in her final moments. Personally feel Marcus wasn't entirely buying it. Yep, same here. We finally get some ideas what Sheridan's plan was for the Teepsicles. They are going to be stashed on the EA ships before the big fight. We also get Garibaldi checking out an EA base with a small team. Looks like the base is busy supplying the fleet, which is huge. After the intro, we see inside the perimeter security post commanded by a dollar store Dolph Lundgren. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
That is awesome, isn't it?
Lamenting that he's not with the largest Earth fleet since the Battle of the Line, he quickly finds himself in deeper than he expected as one of his soldiers switched sides and allowed Garibaldi and his team to take over the post. From there, Garibaldi starts sending the coordinates of the base as the last transports take off for the destroyers. He is joined by Lita, Franklin, and Number One, who start setting Lita up to take control of the Teepsicles now on board the ships. Question: Garibaldi said it would take a couple of hours to get his team in position. How did Franklin, Lita, and Number One get there so fast? Okay, maybe they were already on their way. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
There's more here. He says that having discovered the info on the healing device, he kicks Lanier off with the Len and hightails it to B5, opening up a plot hole, IMO. More on that in a bit. Let's see, Agamemnon can reach the defense platform before it destroys the eastern seaboard of North America, causing millions of deaths. Weaponless, Sheridan grimly orders the only course of action available, destroying the platform with a kamikaze attack. As they are closing in, a jump point opens and Lefcourt's ship comes through and destroys the platform as Agamemnon flies through the fireball, causing Delenn to have a moment's panic as she thought Sheridan had been killed. Yes, Lefcourt saved Sheridan's life, but still think it took a lot of nerve to say Sheridan would have to answer to a court of inquiry after the defeat they had just suffered. Back to the plot hole, we see Stephen, now in command of a White Star, is racing to get to B5 before a tragedy could take place. They now know Marcus accessed the files on the healing device. They can't contact B5 because of the jamming, so they have to try to get there before he does. Okay, except how did Marcus get in touch with B5 in the first place if there was so much jamming? Okay, come on. That was before the jamming.
Yeah.
Anyway, we cut to the scene in Med Lab. The place is torn to hell, bodies everywhere, equipment all strewn about, etc. Before we see Marcus at Ivanova's side, connected to the healing machine. He manages to say, "I love you," before collapsing. Damn it. Is anyone else having problems with all the pollen in the air? Yeah, me too. Oh, onions. Someone's cutting onions. Will Franklin get there before Marcus is completely drained of life? Will Ivanova get enough to recover? What will Earth decide to do with Sheridan? Join us next week when we find out answers to all of the above. Did they actually say boff? Okay. Till then, David, I'm assuming that's a call in to next week.
There usually is. They do a great job of doing that, don't they?
I think so, because it's just confusing and until I watch it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is from Texas. Hello, Texas on the Shock.
Yeah.
It's finally here, the moment we've been waiting for since Clark declared martial law, the day we've been building up to for the last season, the liberation of Earth. The story is split between the great clashes of militaries and the personal battles. On the one hand, we finally find out what Sheridan wanted those shadow-enhanced telepaths for, a way to disable most of the enemy fleet without firing a shot. A bold plan if it works. If it didn't, they still have the White Stars. There has been discussion on whether this constitutes a war crime on Sheridan's part. It's one of those topics that you can make a compelling argument either way. In this case, he does it for the purpose of sparing thousands of lives, which is, to my thinking, against the mindset of those who commit war crimes, who usually don't care about the death and destruction they cause. On the other hand, we have the personal tragedy of a man losing the last thing he cares about, something that leaves him so distraught he leaves and returns to Babylon 5 once he finds a possible solution. He's on his own for that. The mission is too far along to go back for him, so they proceed to the final stage, the liberation of Earth. Sheridan announces their presence and intentions, calls on those who oppose Clark to make their move, and holds the line against the automated defenses surrounding the planet. Clark, unsurprisingly, refuses to be taken alive and shoots himself, just to complete the Hitler connection. But he can do something Hitler wanted to do, but wasn't in a position by the end. Burn it all down so no one else can have it. Clark turns the defense grid towards Earth to wipe out as much of the planet as possible. Once he learns of this, Sheridan calls every ship available, human and alien, to take them down. The Agamemnon has its forward weapons disabled and begins a ramming attack on the nearest platform. Fortunately, the Apollo, one of the ships disabled earlier, has gotten its issues sorted out, mechanical and ideological, and arrives in time to destroy the final platform just before the Agamemnon hits it. The day is saved, but the cost still has to be tallied, not just in bodies, but the price Sheridan will have to pay for his actions. What will that price be? It might be getting the Medal of Honor and then being shot. Okay, Texas, what's that about? Until then, this is the Texas on the Shock signing off. Until Zaveni in Valen's name.
Yay.
Frustrating, but I get it. Okay, and on to Nathan's. Hi, guys. Hi, Nathan.
Hey, Nathan.
Here's an abrupt end of the war 2 episodes before the end of the season. What the hell will they do with the whole 80 minutes left? Babylon 5-1, the end. Sheridan finally shows that he did lose his innocence, as Delenn has said in War Without End. In that regard, I've always thought that Franklin agreeing with him to do that with the telepaths was rather strange. He has repeatedly shown that he's all about saving lives, not throwing unwilling innocents on the front lines to die. Marcus and Ivanova's storyline gets quite a tragic development. I was floored by it, and something from the 3 seasons ago being brought back is nice too. I never thought that this romance would develop into anything anyway, so in that regard, Marcus sacrificing himself worked quite well. Although I wish JMS did more to justify why the crew couldn't contact Babylon 5, like Clark continuing his rampage and ordering Earthforce to attack relay stations and jump gates. I also suspect that Ivanova's planned ultimate destiny was somewhat similar to what we see. Her visiting and using the Great Machine was abandoned due to the actor playing Drawl not being available, which is why we saw that Zathras, not Zathras. And I think that in the end, she would have been grievously injured. Maybe something happened to the machine too, or Drawl simply decided to abdicate, and the solution would have been to place her in the helm, but trapped there forever. With regards, Nathan. That's an interesting take.
That is an interesting take.
Yep.
It is funny how they've just had to forget about the Great Machine. Forget about that, yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you see what's in this hand? Don't worry about what's in this hand.
Yeah, the French drop.
Right.
Lou, any thoughts on our YouTube channel?
Yeah, we got a couple of replies. Texas was over there as well, and he says, I think Bashful is the dwarf that everyone forgets. And this next one, maybe you guys can explain it to me, because I don't know what the reference. I know the line, but I don't know what the answer is. After years of watching the show, I suddenly realized what Garibaldi is actually saying when he talks about needing more fiber in his diet.
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
Texas, please.
Yeah.
Don't keep the answer to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please let us know what it is, because I thought it was a weird line. I remember that, but I just figured it was
it's funny.
an
in joke or something. I just didn't know what it was.
I did too.
Yeah.
Constipated, and so they're
Maybe,
he's not alone.
Yeah. Nathan writes about particularly about the movies. He says, I don't have a strong feeling about River of Souls. It both does and doesn't interrupt the flow if you watch it before the finale, where it's placed thematically. As for all the other movies, though, after the finality, I think if they watch before, they sour the experience too much, since their quality is not always the best, whereas the last episodes of the series flow into the finale quite well. So that's one take. And then we've got some genre jousting about TIE fighters and Wrath of Khan. So that's everything we've got there.
Good. All right.
And just so you guys know, in case you don't see the comments, I do know that they're not TIE fighters, that they're called Star Furies. I just think it's funny. They look exactly like TIE fighters. So that's why I call them. Oh, yeah, they're X-Wings. You're right. But TIE fighters is funny.
Yeah.
It is very funny.
You guys knew what I was talking about.
Yep.
Yes, we did. Yeah. Oh, good. All right. If someone wants to reach you, how can they, Lou?
They can find us on YouTube at Lou's Reviews, where you find our Babylon 5 podcasts, along with the writers podcast that I do and the Stephen King podcast, and our combined JKL Media podcast, where we do one-off series or music reviews. We've done such things as Midnight Mass, Devs, Station 11, The English, Identity Crisis, Dark Matter, Springsteen, Western Stars, Tragically Hip, 12 Monkeys, Watchmen, We Are the World, Barbie, V for Vendetta, The Green Mile, and just recently the Quester tapes. And now today we are going to embark on the review of the one and only season of The Peripheral from Amazon Prime, based on the William Gibson novel. And on Twitter, you can find me at Lou W. Sitzma, SYTSMA.
Super. And Karen?
I am at Alvaria on the various social medias. And so you can find me there. And my blog is alliestuff.com. And the landing page has a bunch of links, which I will probably update soon. But there's some stuff there that you might find interesting.
And I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter, aka X. You can hear me talking music on Set Lusting Bruce and Perfectly Good Podcast. And if you are a Doctor Who fan, Charles Skaggs and I on Next Stop Everywhere we are covering every new episode of the new Doctor. And the one that happened on Friday of this week as we're recording was, I think, a modern classic. So it was very good. So I'm looking forward to talking about it. But we are not finished talking Babylon 5. We will be back next week with lots of questions. We'll have to talk about what is going to happen to Sheridan. What is going to happen to Susan? Is Marcus dead? What's going on? So what is the deal with Babylon 5?
Okay, Jerry.
Does Garibaldi get his fiver?
Yeah.
That's right.
All right. So thank you guys. Please come back next week. And it's been a while, but if anyone has not gone to iTunes to rate and review the podcast, that would really help. And also share this episode with someone who's a fan. I know there's 3 or 4 Babylon Rewatch episodes going on, and I appreciate you guys putting us in the mix. So thank you, Karen. Thank you, Lou. Thank you, listeners. And we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yay. Perfect.
And scene.